Hi everybody. Well, we've started on this in stages. So I wanted to show you, in case you have a painted table that you're going to stain. If you were just going to paint it, I would suggest just do a slick stick on it and then paint over that. But in this case, the table was to be stripped and stained, so I had to do all the in-between steps. This was a catalyzed lacquer, and it had been painted black, so it was stripped off. On the other one, same thing, but now we'll do the third step, which is sanding it before I can apply the stain that's on it.
Alright, so you have to start with a coarse sandpaper and move to a finer sandpaper, and it doesn't matter whether you're using an orbital sander or a standard sander, you have to go with the grain. The reason is, as you're sanding, if you don't go with the grain, you lift the grain and you end up with a really rough surface and it damages the wood. So I'm just going to go ahead here and you can see how much of the material it takes off with every swipe. This portion I've done a little bit already. This portion was what was left after the stripper took the paint off. I don't believe this piece, this leaf, was sanded before the paint was put on, so it appears that the paint didn't adhere as well to the surface, whereas the other piece was sanded and it adhered better to the sanded surface. So you can see there you've got almost a really heavy stained look to that piece. So let's give this a shot, and you can see I'm using a 60 grit paper on an oscillating or random orbiting sander, and it takes off a fair amount
Also, just a quick point, this table happens to be a veneer top, so you can't do a lot of pressure or spend a lot of time on one spot. If it was all wood, it would be different, but because of the veneer, you have to stay even and not apply a lot of pressure onto it.
Now, as Brenda was saying, this piece is MDF with an oak veneer. Veneer got a really bad reputation in the 70s because they switched from using actual wood to using plastic. So just because you hear the word veneer, it doesn't mean it's a dirty word. Good quality wood workmanship uses veneer. In days gone by, they would use an inexpensive wood underneath and then the more expensive veneer, and it made a piece more affordable for folks rather than using a solid piece of oak. The other advantage is if you make a piece like this in strips that are 3 to 4 inches wide and join them together, they won't cup or warp, where a wide plank of wood will cup and warp. So as Brenda was mentioning, this is a veneer, and be careful when you approach the edges because any sander has a bit of give to it, and as you can see, when it gives, it's going to go around the corner of this edge. So you really have to concentrate on pressing toward the center, not going out to the edge. It'll strip the veneer off down to the MDF, which then ruins the look you're trying to get.
Okay, so for those of you that know me, you know I don't do many videos, so bear with me as I jump around. I stopped it just long enough so that we could sand it.
So you can see here, this is where we left the first step. I've been doing some sanding here, and it takes off the surface. And if you follow the camera down to this end here, if you look right at the end of the piece, you see that it shows the stain or the paint absorbs differently on different surfaces. So the end is the natural color of the wood, and the next one down is the color that the wood is now that the stain has been on or the paint has been on. So it changes the color of the wood. You have to take that into consideration because it will be difficult to bring it back to the natural wood color. If you go too deep, you're going to take the veneer off and end up with the MDF, and that could ruin the effect that you're trying to create.